Thank you everyone for joining today's API integration webinar for ClassIT Plus. We are going to give everybody a minute or so as we see folks still joining, and then we'll get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. This is going to be recorded, and so it will be available after the webinar. In addition, there is a Q&A button at the bottom. So if you have any questions throughout this, please feel free to use the Q&A button, and we will ask questions throughout the webinar. We also will leave some time at the end to answer questions. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. So we appreciate everybody taking the time to join. So we have everybody from carriers to shippers to brokers to integrators on this. So we're excited. As you know, we've been talking a lot about the classification changes and ClassIT Plus. So today we're going to talk about specifically the APIs. So on the next slide, we are going to do some introductions. So I'm Joe Orr, the Chief Operating Officer at NMFTA.
I'm Holly Taylor, Director of Product at NMFTA.
Hi, and I'm Sean Greenberg, Director of Engineering.
Thanks,
before
guys.
we get farther, I just wanted to find out, do I need to click something to get this recording?
No, it is automatic.
Yep. All right. Let's roll.
All right. And then on the next slide. So the agenda today, we're going to start by talking about some important dates. Then we're going to talk about some resources, and hopefully they're ones that you're aware of, but we're going to talk about where you can go for some updates and also some tools to help with the classification changes and ClassIT Plus. Next, we're going to talk about infrastructure and security, as it is one of the most important things in any organization. Sean's going to talk about the highlights and benefits of the APIs and the integrations. We're going to talk about key features. And then again, at the end, we're going to have Q&A. But if you have any questions throughout, please use that Q&A button. All right. So with that being said, on the next slide, Holly, I'll let you kick it off to talk about some important dates.
Thank you. Starting next week on May 20th, the sandbox will be available with data. It'll be non-production data so that you can actually start testing your API connection beyond just that authenticate. So that is a key date for you next week, May 20th. Between July 1st and July 8th, you are going to, if you are a subscriber, a ClassIT Plus API subscriber, you will be able to gain early access to the 2025-1 changes. So if you are interested in ClassIT Plus, the API, and you have not yet, reached out, then please reach out to our customer service and get that started so that you can get your early access so that you can prepare your systems and get ready for the changes on July 19th. July 15th is when ClassIT Plus is officially released and it'll be launched. And then, like I said, July 19th is when the NMFC data changes become effective. Just wanted to highlight a few key resources. If you go to classitplus.com, you'll find just an assortment of information about ClassIT Plus and the API. It'll include links to our API documentation as well, which is in the Help Center, which is that second link there. So you can access the API documentation from either classitplus.com or that link right there for the Help Center. And one last, sorry, Sean, one last thing about classitplus.com. When you go there, you can also subscribe to updates so that you can get updates on ClassIT Plus and key dates and resources and everything that's going to be coming along over the next 2 months.
Okay, Joe, you wanted to take pause here?
Yeah, so Sean, at this point, let's go through the highlights, and then I'll after you go through the highlights, I think we'll pause with some questions, and but I'll let you first
Okay.
go through some highlights.
All right, you got it. Hi, everybody. So we're using real bleeding edge tech with this. We want to use everything that's at our disposal to make this the fastest performing, most secure suite of software that we've put out to date. So we're building it in the cloud using Azure's environment. We gain with that some built-in off-the-shelf security. We are, of course, opting for their top-level offerings. So this should be an impenetrable, rock-solid, always up, available on both coasts, robust provider of the information you need. We're going to have real-time monitoring, which will include not just alerts and dashboards for us to see what's happening live, but we'll begin tying in predictive monitoring so that the system will be able to automatically adapt to the amounts of traffic and trends of traffic that we start to see. Strong performance and stability are paramount here. And to that end, I've already mentioned we're setting up replicated instances on the East Coast, on the West Coast. As we need to, we can bring in a hot standby that we have in Mountain. So we'll be routing you guys to the closest point with the lowest latency based on where you're coming in. Everything we can do to squeeze a little bit extra speed out of it. The high availability and no single point of failure, that goes hand in hand with having multiple copies in multiple geographic locations. It is the definition of highly available, and no catastrophe on any particular side of the lower 48 could possibly take us down. We're going to use, sorry, I went to scroll. We're going to use some of our tricks and techniques with storage and caching to speed everything. So we're also using Mongo database, which is a NoSQL database. It's very document centric and really geared towards speed and search performance and returning information in document centric ways. So in order to get even faster than that, we're going to be using some caching tricks and keep everything really just screaming along. Batch requests for updates. So that is, in a moment, I'm going to walk you through all the different endpoints, the shape of the data that comes in, the shape of the data that comes back for the endpoints we built so far. The batch request one is in progress. So you'll have to wait a little bit longer for a peek at how that one is going to operate in the nuts and bolts level, but it will be there in time for us to go live. And then threshold notification. So we are defining two different thresholds. We've got, you're getting a monthly rate. How many searches in a month can you perform? And because we don't want anyone to ever be left high and dry, you'll be getting an email notification if you break through your threshold, but you'll continue to be able to perform searches. And if we find a pattern, then we'll probably adjust what subscription you're on so that your threshold matches your usage. We're also going to establish an hourly threshold, and this is to prevent abuse. So while it's extremely fast performing, it's a big pie that everyone's sharing. So if you've got a certain tier, we've broken out what your hourly limit would be. So if you are hitting your hourly limit, it will stop providing you search results and will instead tell you that you've exceeded your limit. And at this time, you'll be able to resume searches and getting results. So that's the response that you'll get from the API. It's something that we will also have emails going out in those instances. So you'll be advised of those things. You won't just be dependent upon, hey, did someone interpret the response from the API and let someone know about that? You'll get that information via email to the contact you've designated. And if that seems to be a ceiling that you're banging your head against too frequently, then again, maybe we'll right size your subscription and then you'll be fine. So that's what I've got to say about the highlights. And before I jump into the details, Joe?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So
Mhm.
we do want to pause here. I've got a couple things I want to add, but also it's a good time for any questions that for the Q&A. But a couple things I want to highlight and some questions, Sean, I want to ask is, number one, at NMFTA, one of the things we're real focused on in one of our pillars is cybersecurity. So you'll see this secure by design. And so that was one of the important things that we did when we built the APIs is we wanted to make sure that cybersecurity was a key focus point. And so that secure by design is critical. And so part of this is also not only our security testing, but also external pen testing that is being done. The real-time monitoring isn't just for performance, it's also from a cyber perspective. And so that's an investment that NMFTA has made to make sure that our infrastructure is protected and that all the data is also protected. Sean also mentioned with the geographical redundancy, the important point of that if something happens in one data center, we have the ability to go to other data centers. And then, with the caching, I know a lot of people may not use 100% of the book. They use 20% of the book. And a lot of companies may not allow for the local caching, but it improves performance. It improves your performance, improves our performance. So we think that that's extremely important. And then Sean, when we talk about performance, a lot of times we get questions about, well, what type of response time should I expect? So can you talk a little bit about that? What kind of response times should an integration partner or should a customer expect during normal usage for a API call?
Sure. So we're looking at it's going to be sub-second. We're looking at 300 to 500 milliseconds, I believe, will be peak time responses if everyone's hammering it at once, Black Friday week type of things. If it's you know outside of the peak, it could be even lower.
Okay. And I think Holly, one of the things at the end of the presentation that we should do is talk about the API limits. And so I'll put you on the spot a little bit. I know we've got a chart, so maybe we can show the API limits. We've got the hourly, we've also got the monthly. Somebody had asked if we could expand on those. I think it's a great idea to go ahead and show what those limits are. We really took a look at what we think is reasonable and we doubled them
Mhm.
so that we really don't expect anybody to hit them unless there's a bug in the program or there's something going on that's really unexpected. So I think that's a great question. I think at the end of the presentation, we should go ahead and spend a couple times after Sean's demo to go ahead and do that. And then the other question is, could I replace my existing multi-seat license for ClassIT with the API and use that for my employees to look up class? And the answer to that is, yeah, if you've got an existing ClassIT license and you want to switch over to API, reach out to us. We would definitely look at you converting that over. So reach out to Holly or myself, and myself, I should say, and we would definitely take a look at that. We think, the API has a lot to offer. And if that's something you're interested in doing, we would be open to that. All right, Sean, I'll let you continue. Thank you.
All right. So we have developed a robust and comprehensive knowledge base. I'm going to walk through this because this gives you all the detail, and this is the white paper basically that you're going to use to complete your integration and implementation. So I think this makes logical sense as a starting point to go over what we have. So at the highest level, this is more of an index of the assorted endpoints that we've already got implemented. And you could see, I'll go into detail of each of these. You can see we've got an authentication method. We have some methods that are designed for reporting. And then, of course, we've got the searching methods and the detail searching and various flavors of search. So let's, without further ado, let's jump into these guys and start moving through them. The doorway, the gateway into all of the other methods is the authentication method. This is the only method where you're going to provide a combination credential of a username and password. They're strong. They are generated by us, the password, and the username, I believe, is also generated by us. You will retrieve it off the website and implement it on your end. When you make this call, what you'll get back is a JWT token that's in JSON format. And with that token, once you're armed with this token, and we decided to make these tokens work for a full 24 hours because we know people are going to be doing thousands of searches a day. And what we don't want is thousands of authentication calls every day. So if you call once a day and get your token, you can use that token for the rest of the day on your calls to all the other methods, reports, searches, you name it. So that's all I got to say about authentication. Once you're armed with this, let's see what you can do with it. So if you were inclined to see, hey, what do I have left for the month? What's my burn rate? How am I doing? You can use that token, and we embed it in the header in a post method, and that identifies you to us as valid. It identifies who you are. We know exactly what to do. So a successful call will tell you, hey, in this month, starting here and ending here, you made 5 calls. You've got a million available. You have 995 calls left available. And then, of course, there'll be just a couple other boilerplate. Success, yes, successful. Did you get an error message? No. And then obviously a failure would be you wouldn't get the information you want, and you'd get a success is false and an error message that may be as broad as this or will hopefully be more descriptive. and that will get you everything you need from that one reporting method. And here's, again, for as you're integrating, you wanted to know, let's say you weren't sure, well, what is available total? What does that mean? You could look up here, what does available total mean? It's the remaining number of transactions available for the month, and it's an integer. So it gives you everything you need to create your objects and have everything strongly typed so that you know what you're getting back on the other side. Let's see, that's available for month reporting, usage report. Similar concept. You pass in that token and you get back your start date and end date you sent to us. And we will tell you a breakdown of your usage. How many search calls did you make? How many article calls did you make? This is a much more detailed breakdown of the flavors of searches you're performing, as opposed to the other one, which was grand totals and generalized. So if you're looking for, real specific details of, well, what am I really using? That's the way you're going to get it. We total them up for you at the bottom. We break them out for you here flexibly into the individual categories. Let's see. I think let's move on from reporting. The keyword search, the main event. So again, your gateway in here is the bearer token that you retrieve from the authentication method, and you supply us with keywords. Minimum length, maximum length, it's just a string. You can give us search criteria. Do you want to do a full match? Everything has to be exact, or a partial match, something it contains. This is not a case-sensitive match. It doesn't matter what you send us is camel-cased or proper cased or caps locked or lowercase. We'll find the matches regardless. And you can also define a scope. You can default it to searching everything. Or you could say, well, you know what, I only want to know in rules or in indexes or indices. So you can specify here what kind of search criteria you want. And so the paging on these search results, they come back in 25 results at a time. So they're broken into multiple pages. And if you are performing a search and you want to implement some paging on your end and say, well, I want to be able to go from the first page to the second page to the third page, or I want to drop down and I want to just pick the page and go to the 12th page. If there are that many results, you could pass in a value here and we will page for you. And again, now just a description of what do these things mean. And I just kind of walked you through them. Pretty straightforwards, and some samples of if you sent in a keyword of abrasives and you wanted a partial match on articles and indexes of the first page, this would be the shape of your request. And then this would be somewhat like what you would get back. You'd get the article and the number, the description, how many matches. And so you would get a breakdown of how you should expect the data to be returned to you. Let's see. Searching by an article or an item number is a more detailed result. So at that first search, you're getting maybe higher level results. You're getting pages and pages of results. At this level, you kind of want to be able to, you want to drill into it, right? So you're going to send a specific article number. I want to know the full width and breadth of that individual article. So this is the method for you. This is the same thing. You pass it in with a token. We know who you are. We perform a search. The article number, you can, this is the results. You're going to get back the article information. You're going to get back reference numbers, and then the boilerplate success, error message if there was. Ideally, success is true, error message is nothing. And here's some samples. So you would just do as simply as article number 1050. And what you'll get back is the full description of that article. And tariff issue supplements, pointers. You'll get the dates that they're effective, issued, if there's cancellation date, the subs. So you really get back everything that you could possibly want to get back from an article using this type of search. Let's see, moving right along. We've got a few, I know our knowledge base is still coming together, so pardon our dust. This method is a search for packages. Same kind of thing as the article search. You're going to kick over a package number to us, and we're going to kick back a bunch of details about a package. And we don't have the details of the response and the request objects, just the properties. So a little bit of imagination and creativity here, and you could probably assume what the JSON will look like. This will be filled in its entirety before you need it. But, you'll get back a description, tariff issues, supplements, classifications, the dates that are involved, the sub-items, pretty much along the lines of what the other one was, except for this one is package-centric. And really more of the same of that for the rule search. It's rule-centric. So you pass in your token, you pass in a rule number that you want to search, and voila, descriptions, tariff issues, supplements, classifications, issue dates, sub-items, anything pertaining to it. And then we're, of course, going to fill in the actual request and response objects. So you'll really have those. And then, again, as I previously mentioned, the coming soon batch method, we'll have another knowledge base article for that spells out that in its precise format. And with that, I forgot to go to the key feature side to tell you guys we were going to take a look, but we did that already. So I will kick it over to Holly.
Actually, I was going to see if we wanted to answer some questions first, and then we can take a peek at those rate limits. Sean, I did send you the details of the rate limits if you wanted to pop that up on your screen. If not, you can share. I can share my screen, but whatever works better. So I do see that we have some questions. Would this make more sense if we had used your system previously? So I'll kind of start us off, and then maybe Joe, you can jump in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, in order to really get the biggest benefit out of out of what we're going through right now, understanding the NMFC and ClassIT Plus would be extremely beneficial. The main features in our API revolve around retrieving and accessing data for classification purposes. So all of those search calls that Sean was going through focuses around searching for that item number, searching for that description or keyword, so that you can pull in the correct item number so that you can make the correct classification. So absolutely, if you are a current user of ClassIT or someone that's familiar with classification, then this would make more sense for you.
I'd like to add, so we have two real main events. The website will perform searches as well, and it's an individual user logs in, and you could type a search and have a user interface in a browser. And that's for onesie twosies. You're doing manual work there. The API is really intended for if you have an automated workflow, you want your computer systems to be able to retrieve information on their own as part of something you're automating. It can talk to our computer system and pull information that it needs real time from us. So, an individual user who wants to look up, 3, 4, 5 things may not really be suited to go against an API, would take a special set of tools to communicate with the API. It would really be for your automated processes. The website might be the better venue to do that as an individual user. So we have the best of both worlds. We can support, and they're not mutually exclusive. So we can support whatever scenario you need.
Yeah, there's a couple different scenarios that we really hear with the API. Number one, it like Sean said, it's integration, right? It's API, it's computer systems talking to computer systems. So that could be things like EBOL, for example. You want to do something with your billing system. You want to do something with your TMS. I think another really typical thing is in-house programming. So say, for example, you want to give something for your sales team. So you just want to write something, a simple application, or they can do a lookup and they don't need the full ClassIT Plus. So you write something for your sales team to utilize. So I think there's a couple different use cases that they could utilize. So they could, again, get in front of, say, an iSeries, type in a classification number, or I'm sorry, type in an item number and simply type it, get a classification number back. It really depends. So I think there's several different use cases. But to Sean's point, for the people that really want the details of classification, the website would be the best. So it really depends. So Sean, one of the questions is, as far as will Swagger be available?
Yes, absolutely 100%. I'm a big fan. It makes digestion very simple. And then even through Swagger, you can, with a couple clicks, generate your own starter kits. You can generate your SDKs. So if you're working in Node.js or you're working in C#, doesn't really matter what the platform is. They've got dozens of different ones that you can click a button and download. And they've got, the sample calls that you can test out. So yeah, the long answer is yeah.
And then Sean, I know for this, can you talk a little bit about how the results will appear? So for example, if you do search on something, an item number or an item, how will the NMFC code actually appear? How do the results actually appear? Not if you just search on a description or an item number within the response code.
All right, let's see. That is all described in the response JSON objects. And so JSON is a basically a nested hierarchical structure. And I mean, this is the sample. It is kicked back in a structure just like this.
Perfect. And just so everybody knows, what Sean is going through is live. It is on our documentation. And
Mhm.
so one of the links Holly showed early on is exactly what Sean's going through. So it is referenceable after the presentation, and
Mhm.
or it is referenceable right now. And so feel free to take a look at it, and it has all this information. All right, so I know we're going to go through the rate transactions, but also want to go through some other information. So Holly, let's go through some of the other things in the slide deck, please.
Absolutely, Sean.
Oh, yeah, just one moment before we move on. I'm realizing that I've skipped over. It's not in the documentation yet, is why. There is, because I see one of the questions. There are a number of calculation methods that are also going to be available for density and other, so those are going to be available. We just don't have the documentation for them yet. So this is not the full scope that we've just talked about. They're coming soon to a browser near you.
Yeah, Sean, I believe under objects, there is information about like the calculator. But I can talk to this slide. Okay. I was going to say we
Yeah.
could jump back and forth. If you
All
go
right. Do we
up,
want to jump into it?
yeah, let's take a quick peek. If you click on API documentation at the very top, yep, there'll be an object article, an objects overview article. And I believe in there is where you will find the calculators.
Mhm.
Or did we go through that? I think
Density
towards,
calculation summary,
yeah.
minimum calculation UTO 6. These are the objects. Yeah, all right,
Okay,
let's
so
see. Let's
okay.
see if the objects tie back into the so we have a number of different calculation methods. And I know at a very basic level, density is, length times width times height and and mass. So it's a pretty straightforward formula, mass over volume, and but we do a few extra things with it in a number of our methods. Um, yeah, it really wasn't planning to
Yeah,
speak to this so much at this point, so we may
no
have to
worries.
save this for a future date.
Yeah, no worries, but I can give a little bit of an answer to this one question about
Mhm.
if we send an open-ended, send in the freight details, open-ended, we don't know the class, we don't know the article number, can we get the class back? And the answer is no. So the class is tied to that item number. And with our calculations through the API, the calculator functions are just there as reference. So right now, you can pull the information related to an item number, the description, and you'll get the class information related to that. And then you can do a separate call where you'll enter in your dimensions, and then you'll get your density calculations, and using that calculation, and then based on the information that was pulled related to the item, you can look at the classes, and then you can decide which class best fits your calculations. That's how it's working right now. So we were going to talk a bit about ClassIT Plus on the road in 2025. So the great thing is, over the next few months, we'll be in various locations and at various events, and also online. We have numerous webinars, including an Ask Us Anything style webinar that we are going to have every couple of weeks, where you can just register, sign up. It's free. Join us for an hour. We'll have some conversation. People will ask questions. And really, we just want to make sure everyone's going to be prepared for July, for our launch on July 15th and the effective date of the NMFC data changes on July 19th. So please go out to either one of these sites that you see in front of us to see where we're going to be at, or to join us online. We will be traveling over the next several weeks as well to different conferences. So excuse me, hopefully we'll see you either online or on the road.
Thanks, Holly. And we did want to go ahead and show the rate limits. So I don't know, Holly or Sean. Yeah, if we can make that bigger. So Holly, I know we spent a lot of time going over this and through this. So Holly, if you don't mind, I know this was we got a couple questions on this. So this shows the different tiers and then the limits by hour, but also by month. And like Sean said, once you get to a certain percent of this, you do get a human readable message in addition to support does let you know. And then you will on the per hour go ahead and you would get shut off, but then you get reset the next hour. And as you can see, it's pretty generous with the rate limits per month. So we just want to put this out there to show you guys and make sure. And we did a lot of analysis on this, and we think that, you know, based on what we see in the industry, this is not something we expect anyone to hit. And as Sean pointed out, if we do see people that, let's say you're a medium-sized carrier and you're really hitting it, and then we would recommend you bump yourself up to large, based on the number of transactions that you're doing. But these are the rate limits. So I think that's a great question, and glad that we can go ahead and share it. All right. We did want to save some time for questions. So any questions that we have, I'll go ahead and answer. So any questions or anything, Sean or Holly, that we haven't addressed that you guys would like to add?
No, and I would also like to say, if you guys have questions on something that we didn't go over or that we don't have the information for right now, still ask, let me know, and I can get the information for you and get it out to you.
Okay. Holly, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, no, just the same, you know, go to classitplus.com and subscribe to our updates. You can also, that's again going to be where you can find the link to the API documentation. And, you know, just be on the lookout for more updates over the next few weeks and as we lead up to July.
So one of the questions we've got is, when can shippers start using the codes? Is it hard and fast on July 19th? Any grace period? You know, we will publish it, but as far as the adoptions, it's really up to, it's a relationship, carrier shipper relationship. So I can tell you what we've heard. The carriers are really saying that, hey, if we know that the shippers are trying, you know, we're going to work with them. But if they're not putting forth the effort, then that's a different discussion. But you know, I don't want to use the word grace period, but it seems like the carriers, the brokers, they'll work with the shippers as long as they are, you know, putting effort into it. But I think it's really up to the shippers and the carriers to have that conversation. I know, Holly, you know, you've been in a lot of the same conferences I have. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that's exactly right. The consensus across the board is that it's all about that relationship and the partnership you have with each other, and everyone is willing to work with each other as long as there's an effort to move forward. So if you're working with carriers that are adapting the changes immediately, then they'll expect, you know, some work on your end to get those changes in place as well. But we have had lots of questions about how long will the existing ClassIT system be available. The current ClassIT system will be available through the fall until mid-fall, and we're looking at like the October, November timeframe just for this reason, because people are asking us, how can I access the 2024 data? What if I still need to confirm information that is applicable to the 2024 data and not the 2025-1 changes? So that's where we're kind of going to work with you. We're going to leave the existing ClassIT system in place for a few extra months so that if you do need to access the data that is pre-2025-1, then you still can. And so, yeah, expect that to be available for a few months afterwards.
Thanks, Holly. And the next question is a great question because we actually had this discussion internally a few weeks ago. So Sean, I'm going to kick this one to you. Our rate
Sure.
limits global. All API calls to any method counts, and really what we looked at is what hits the database. So Sean, maybe if you could answer that one, please.
I will. We talked about this quite a bit, and it's the main event is the search. That's really what everyone wants to come and see. So that's what we're counting because that's what uses up the horsepower. And it really wouldn't be fair if we were counting towards the rate limit. Let's say you hit your limit. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to call the reporting ones to see, well, what's my usage? How did I get here? And if you've already hit your rate limit and you can't see the report that tells you how you got to where you are, you're kind of in a catch-22. So we're not counting the authentication call. We're not counting the calculator methods. We're not counting the reporting. It is only the search flavored calls that count towards your rate limits. And we make sure to note that in the places. And we try to make it visible so at the time you're making your purchases, you should catch it and see it and say, I got it.
All right. Any other questions? Again, very good questions. All ones that, we've talked about internally, like the rate limits and the grace period and what we do charge for. So all very good questions. Anything else we can answer? Okay. Also, if you go to the ClassIT Plus, you'll see older webinars. Somebody had asked about, how do I get kind of caught up? That will have a lot of the older webinars that we have and a lot of our resources. And as Holly mentioned, we are going to a lot of different shows, both broker focused, shipper focused, carrier focused. So we'll be demoing ClassIT Plus, so you get to see it. And again, we appreciate you joining and very excited to launch the product. So appreciate it and appreciate your time. Guys, any last words?
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.